this year of our Lord 1984 doth constitute a bicentennial for this our glorious province of Ontario, as well as for this pleasant isle. And whereas our illustrious flawless ancestors chose this green and pleasant spot for their domicile, we do celebrate the year with many varied activities and much joy. And whereas there be many visitors among us at this time, we would that ye participate and share freely of our great heritage. To this me and I am authorized to bid ye welcome.
The horn at you, you were hard at it up there.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Music with a silver sound, with speed is wont to send redress. Concert of piano music will delight the ear and haunt the soul. At the Glenora Mill Theatre, commencing this very evening at 8:30 p.m. The most modest and discreet sum of $5 will assure the listener a unique and memorable experience. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. The Order of the Eastern Star doth hold a carnation tea at the Masonic Hall this day in the charming village of Wellington between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. And whereas the good ladies of the village have labored at their stoves and industriously plied their needles, there will be much to see and purchase. And as does befit the occasion, there will be served sandwiches discreetly cut, relishes to titillate the palate, sweet confections, and tea or coffee, steeped and brewed with knowing care. The modest sum of $1 does provide admission. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. On Sunday the 17th day of June, between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m., pretty summer music, Fiji's to partake of their English tea, to be served in the elegant and historic surroundings of Macaulay House, Picton. The most modest sum of $3 does provide as follows. Homemade scones, carefully baked, served hot with butter and a variety of delectable jams, rich pastries and sweetmeats in dainty serving dishes. Tea, carefully selected for its aroma and flavor, then steeped with skill and care that your pleasure may be. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. There is to be an equestrian show on the fairgrounds, Picton, Sunday, June the 17th, for halter, pleasure, and game classes, with a variety of special events. Sparkling beverages will be available. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. God save the Queen!
You're in the way of.
The gentleman who has his license number on his car out there. Like name on his license number.
That's right.
How do you see it? Well, my daughter said, look, she said the name on the license plate.
That's right. I paid $24 for
Is that all?
2 months. 2 months later, they said they put my name plate on it. It cost another $20 for 40.
It costs you $100 in Ontario to have your name on it.
How much?
$100 if you want to have a special license plate. So $24 is cheap.
No, $20.
20. That's the bar.
Station wagon's 24.
In all our Son's command, with glowing hearts we seek right, the true North strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I think we won.
O Canada, where pines and maples grow, great prairies spread, and lordly rivers flow. How dear to us thy broad domain, from east to western sea. Our land of hope for all to toil, thou true North strong and free. God keep thy land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, beneath thy shining skies, yea, stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise, to keep thee steadfast through the years, from east to western sea. Our own beloved native land, our true North strong and free. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are gathered together today to remember the Loyalists who 200 years ago gave up their homes and their secure way of life to journey to the wilderness and begin a new life. We give thanks for their courage, their endurance, their sacrifice. We acknowledge that their endeavors help to shape our society, this land that we love. These Loyalists brought with them their faith and their loyalty to the Crown, and bequeathed to us their love of you, our God, through a diversity of expression, and their love of liberty under the Crown. By remembering the landing of the Loyalists, Lord, we confess our dependence upon your love, for without your grace they would not have succeeded. Send us your Spirit today, Father, that we might have the wisdom and the strength and the love to continue to build upon their vision. As we enjoy our celebrations this day, we remember our world, a world in conflict and turmoil. We remember our country and province, Elizabeth our Queen, and all those who we have asked to govern us. Finally, Lord, we remember the sick, the anxious, the distressed. Help them and all of us to live our lives to the fullest. We ask this in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Address by Mr. Bruce Cahill.
Hello to my wife.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that as we gather on this beautiful day that the Lord has given us, in recognition of those of our forefathers so many years ago who came to this beautiful land and established themselves, we do so with thankfulness for many things. I, for one, am thankful that you have given me the honor, the Bay of Quinte branch of the United Empire Loyalist Association of Canada, to be here this afternoon in representation of the ancient free and accepted Masons in this district who 100 years ago took a very prominent part in a ceremony that was performed on this very spot. History tells us that there were assembled at that occasion some 3,000 people, and I believe there were some 300 Masons representing the lodges from this immediate area. Today I am a member of Maple Leaf Lodge in Bath, which is celebrating its 125th anniversary of existence, and I am here with a great deal of pride to say how much the Loyalists have contributed to the welfare of our association. I'm not sure why the Masonic Association was chosen to preside at the laying of the cornerstone of this beautiful obelisk which stands here, but I assume that it was because Masonry is a non-political association. It did not leave any room for criticism of that nature, and I'm sure that all of the Masons who were assembled here that day in full regalia were very, very proud to be here. There have been many Masonic lodges in this area, and in days gone by, Masonry, as you know, is divided throughout the province, the jurisdiction of the province, into districts, and in those earlier days we were connected with the district of Prince Edward. Today we form part, the lodges in this particular area form part of the Frontenac Masonic District, extending from Napanee to Gananoque and north to Charlotte Lake and so on. But on that occasion, on June the 16th, 1884, the assembly of people here witnessed the laying of the cornerstone of this obelisk, and it's interesting to note that the Grand Master of our association, who at that time was Most Worshipful Brother Spry, was not able to be here, but he was ably represented by the District Deputy Grand Master of Prince Edward District, Arthur McGuinness, who presided and gave an address at that time. It was interesting to me in reading and researching some of the facts of this date so long ago to recognize that the chaplain who took part in the service that day was the Reverend R.J. Craig, and there might be some older people in this group who would have known Reverend Craig. I knew him very well as a young person because he came to our church many years ago on Amherst Island and supplied our pulpit on many occasions. R.J. Craig, after whom the lodge in Deseronto, Craig Lodge, is named, was an ardent Mason, and it was very fitting that he presided as chaplain on that occasion 100 years ago. Now I would just like to read, history tells us that in the laying of the cornerstone of this obelisk, that it was a scroll was prepared and was placed under the obelisk, under the cornerstone, and it was laid with a silver trowel suitably engraved. Now I wonder if that scroll is still in existence. I would like to know if it was or not. But this is the wording of the scroll which is underneath that stone. By favor of Almighty God, on the 16th day of June, 1884, of the era of Masonry, 5884, and in the 47th year of the reign of our beloved Sovereign Victoria, Queen of Great Britain and Ireland, the dependencies, and Empress of India, whom God may preserve, the Most Honourable Henry Charles P. Petty Fitzmaurice, Marquess of Lansdowne, being Governor-General of the Dominion of Canada, the Right Honourable Sir John Alexander Macdonald, Superintendent of Indian Affairs, being Premier of the Dominion of Canada, the Honourable John Beverley Robinson, being Lieutenant Governor of the Province of Ontario, the Honourable Oliver Mowat, being Premier of the Province of Ontario. The foundation stone of this monument was laid by Right Worshipful Brother Arthur McGuinness, District Deputy Grand Master for Prince Edward District, and in a special Grand Lodge of Freemasons of Canada, attended by various brethren, whom the Grand Architect of the Universe may ever protect and prosper. And in the presence of a large company of people, this monument was erected by the descendants of a small band of patriots who sooner than renounce their allegiance to the throne of Great Britain, left their homes and property, in which is now the United States of America, at the close of the Revolution of 1784, landed at this place, which was then a dense wilderness 100 years ago today, where there is a great centennial celebration in honor of them. And I'm sure as we gather here today, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking back with a great deal of humility and with recognition of those people who came to this area 200 years ago and who have contributed so much to the development of our great nation today. We as Masons give them particular credit for the contributions that they have made to our organization, and I'm sure that we can truthfully say that the same applies to every organization within the communities in which they have lived. Thank you very much for this opportunity of expressing to you the thoughts of mine.
We cannot today read off all the names of all the men, women, and children who came to these shores in 1784. There are simply too many of them, but they all deserve remembrance. To memorialize them all, I'm going to read the names of some of their leaders, people they all knew and looked to in one way or another. Some of these leaders were heroes. Some were crass, but today we make no distinction and honor them all as surrogates of their flocks. They carried out the plan of Frederick Helleman, the governor, who, against great opposition and in times of great tension and difficulty, stood up for and supported the people. His leaders in the field were explorers, surveyors, military men, and natural leaders, also a priest. Here are their names: Samuel Holland, John Collins, John Johnson, John Desirantu, Isaac Hill, David Hill, Michael Grass, Edward Jessup, James Rogers, Peter Van Alstyne, G. von Rutzenstein, Archibald MacDonnell, Thomas Gummersall, Henry Simmons, Justice Sherwood, Gershom French, John Ross, Solomon Johns, Elijah Bottom, David Jones, Stephen Delancey, William Crawford, and the Reverend John Stewart.
Ladies and gentlemen, now a solo by Mrs. Betty Robert H. Island.
I could have just got sitting on there.
My own dear land, where'er my footsteps wander, ever to thee my heart still turns again. To thee my love grows ever fonder, fonder, till in its might it is akin to pain. Ever to thee I'm bound by love and duty. No dearer land to me in all the earth. By all sweet time of home and love and beauty, to thee I cleave, dear land that gave me birth. Yet I look on beyond earth's limitation to where a home of rarer vision gleams, fairer than earth's most wonderful creation, bathed in the light of heaven.
God our Father, on this day we offer thanksgiving for those who landed here 200 years ago. We are grateful that time and our own forgetfulness have not blotted out the memory of their accomplishments. They put everything on the line in order to remain true to their convictions. As we recall the terrible things they endured, we are thankful that in your grace and in your power, their determination did not die. To the contrary, they resolutely reestablished themselves here, clearing the land, building homes and communities, organizing churches where they could practice and strengthen their Christian faith. Much of what we cherish and enjoy today, we owe to them. And now, empower us, O God, to follow their example, to build upon their foundation, so that coming generations may benefit from our efforts, even as we benefit from the efforts of those who went before us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh, I'm fine, Ellen, and you? Oh, come on.
Oh, he's going on the possession.
You'll find him later.
You've got the dogs, Dave. I wanted to go over home there and get on the
Well,
Mother? Mother? Where you are?
I lost you.
okay.
Well, she's right in this area. At least she was. She's likely just like everybody else is moving.
We welcome you all again. We hope you had a good time. I personally looked after the weather to see if it was good today. So everybody's going to say, well, I did, but anyway, I think I did. Now, we are going to call on, first, Mr. John Blinkiron from Canada Post, who has a very, very important announcement to make to you.
First, I want to thank you for the weather. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm with the Corporate Communications Branch of Canada Post, and the Honorable Andre Ouellette, Federal Minister responsible for Canada Post Corporation, has asked me to especially announce to you today that the official ceremony to unveil the new United Empire Loyalist commemorative postage stamp will be held on this site at Adolphustown Park on Tuesday, July the 3rd at 4 p.m. Mr. Ouellette cordially extends an invitation to you and your families to attend this ceremony and join in a stand-up reception which will follow in a marquee tent, which will be erected on the lawns of the museum. July 3rd will be the first day of issue of the new Loyalist stamp, and we'll have it available in post offices across Canada. I think that special thanks are due to Mr. Bill Van Conant, Member of Parliament for Hastings, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington, for making special representations on behalf of the Loyalists in Canada to have the United Empire Loyalists honored through a commemorative postage stamp in 1984. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I will mention at this time, which I was going to save for later, we have to thank Bill Van Conant as one of the founders of getting this stamp published, and I think we owe him a great sense of gratitude. I'd like to also announce that there are children's games right on the other side of the ice cream truck, and if the children would like to go down there now, I am sure that there's some good entertainment for you there, and I hope you all have your ice cream vouchers. When you registered, you should have received a voucher. So if you haven't received one, go down to the tent, down to the registration booth, and there's one there, so you can have some ice cream. By the way, generally you see a sign, it says senior citizens free and children free, but in this case it's only for the children. I'm going to now call on Mr. Wendell Camp, President of the Bay of Quinte branch of the United Empire Loyalists Association, and he will introduce the platform guests.
On this lovely June afternoon, it is my pleasure, on behalf of the Bay of Quinte branch of the United Empire Loyalists Association of Canada, to welcome all of you in this lovely setting. I may speak on behalf of the members of the Branch Bicentennial Committee who have been planning this event in a diligent manner, in thanking all of you for coming today to support us. Some have traveled a distance. Some have come even though they may not be feeling too well physically. Some have left their businesses or their farms in order to be here. You are welcomed one and all, and we hope you find the program to your liking, the people friendly, and your happiness greatly reinforced by being here. This is the United Empire Loyalist Day of celebration, marking the 200th anniversary of the arrival of the Loyalists in the Quinte area. A celebration that you, who happen to have Loyalist ancestry, and you who may not have Loyalist ancestry, may share in and appreciate as one of the components of our great Canadian heritage. May I remind you that your personal signature is requested in the historic register. If you have not already signed your name, try to do so before you leave. Think of later generations poring over these signatures in the year 2084. 28 years ago this month, this Bay of Quinte branch was chartered. You may wish to look at the charter, which is on display in the adjoining museum. Several people who attend the branch meetings regularly are charter members of 1956. Some of these belong to the Toronto branch for a number of years prior to that date. Time does not permit my reading the names of all the surviving charter members, but may I pick out one that may serve as representative of that faithful group that got our branch established. Miss Edith Allison's name is affixed to the branch charter as the original secretary, and I would like her to come to the platform now and accept a small token of the branch's gratitude.
Here.
Edith is declining any comment, but she's very pleased, I'm sure, to accept this. Would you like to give her a rousing round of applause? I would now like to acknowledge publicly the fact that a Winterio grant of $875 is helping to defray some expenses of today's celebration. This grant is matched by a contribution of a corresponding amount from the Bay of Quinte branch to make a total Winterio budget of $1,750. In these economic times, that amount, of course, does not represent the total costs of this day, and without the strong support given to the Bicentennial Quilt Draw, motivated greatly by the efforts of Clifford and Blanche Reed and Ine and Lucy Smith, the branch could not have financed this event. We also wish to thank those who have remembered to contribute to the children's ice cream voucher and to those who contributed to the very attractive lunch boxes that were arranged by the food committee. We are grateful too for the generous donations of cheese, Alt Foods of Napanee, Black Diamond of Belleville, Maple Dale of Plainfield, and the Wilton Cheese Factory. Doug and Brenda Bird of Birdseye GA in Sterling have given a generous gift of treats for the children, including caramel corn, one of my own favorites. We are grateful too for all those who arranged displays and demonstrations, including our cannoneer, Dan Greenfields of Picton. By many different people lending a hand, we are able to celebrate together. If prizes were being given out for attendance, we might choose, now where are they? The Mileses. Where are the Mileses of California? I've forgotten the first name. What is it? I had the first name written down, but I've forgotten it. But anyway, Mrs. Miles is a member of our branch, and they come from Sun City, I think it is, California. We also have the Jack and Florence Haight family of Peachland, British Columbia, and it's nice that so many members of the German clan are with us as a family reunion is held this weekend. Jerry Boyce's Hastings County Historical Society is here in good numbers, and I am personally pleased that 2/3 of my own family have been able to attend today. Barry and Marion Evans and their children from London, Ontario, and Frank Cam from Fredericton, New Brunswick. My other son would have been here maybe, but on May the 5th I got a bicentennial granddaughter, Megan Elizabeth Cam. That's enough of personal remarks. Many others from a distance could be mentioned. It is a pleasant duty to introduce those on the platform. Well, Mr. Bird is seated off the platform. Would you stand, Mr. Bird? He is the capable master of ceremonies. He's from Belleville, Ontario, and was the first choice of the committee for that position. Dr. Ethel Dempsey of Rednersville, a member of the class of 1933 of the Medical School of the University of Toronto, will introduce the principal speaker, Dr. Alan Walters. Thank you. Mrs. Evelyn Drew of Picton, who was national president of the UEL Association at the time I received my certificate in 1976, will thank the principal speaker. The following people will give brief speeches representing groups. Mrs. Gwen Smith, the newly elected national president of the United Empire Loyalist Association of Canada, Chief Earl R. Hill of the Mohawk Band at Tyendinaga, Mr. Bill Van Conen, Member of Parliament for Hastings, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington Riding, Mr. Jim Pollock, Member of Provincial Parliament for Hastings, Peterborough Riding, and my own personal provincial member, and Mr. Harold Allison, the Warden of Lennox and Addington County, as well as Reeve of the Township of Adolphustown in which this historic event is being held. And Mr. Tom Tomkow. Tom is the Reeve of South Fredericksburg Township, which was the original township number 3 of the 1784 survey. We are grateful to the groups and individuals who have given their time and talents to help with today's program. First of all, my ever-faithful members of the Bay of Quinte Branch Bicentennial Committee. They deserve a round of applause. They're good survivors because they lived through 7 committee meetings and they still have 1 more to go. By the way, it's Thursday night, people. The concert brass of Belleville, led by Sal Castelloni, with Larry Brown as assistant conductor and music arranger. Our piper, Doug R. Burns of Belleville. The 2 clergymen, the Reverend David Kirby and the Reverend Carl Schwader. Mr. Bruce Cahy of Amherst Island. Mr. Greg Mackey of Bloomfield, representing the youthful loyalists. Chief Earl Hill. Mrs. Lily Jean Rombo Fries, our soloist this morning. Mrs. Beth Campbell of Belleville and her Scottish country dancers. The young dramatist from Prince Edward Collegiate Picton, Mrs. Lorraine Hill and her Mohawk Children's Dance Group. The Pioneer Square Dancers of Napanee, led by Mr. Doug Tomlinson. And last but not least, the band of Pinecrest Memorial School, Bloomfield, led by Mr. Eric Broadley. We have been very lucky to have had so many who have performed either free of charge or for a very minimum of expense to our branch. We thank you all, and any that I have unintentionally missed. I now call upon Mrs. Vanessa Bacola to come to the platform to preside over the presentation of certificates to new branch members.
Thank you, Mr. Cam. First of all, before I announce the names of the people whose certificates I have, I earlier today saw our Dominion genealogist here, Mrs. Elizabeth Hancock. Are you still here? If you are, would you please stand and give us a wave? Oh, you're probably out there somewhere. Anyway, I'd like to give Mrs. Hancock a round of applause. She's done one terrific job this year putting through all these certificates. And we've certainly been sending lots of them in to her. Anyway, just to be very quick about this, I have a certificate for Nancy Woodside of Toronto, whose ancestor is Jacob Smith. Mr. Howard Bleeker, ancestor John Bleeker. Is Mr. Bleeker with us today? I'm going to hand out the next two together, Mr. George Salisbury and Harriet Jeffrey, brother and sister, ancestor Peter Wortman. Mrs. Edith Cairns, ancestor Andrew Denis. Now I have three again in a grouping, Mrs. Agnes Instant, Mrs. May Compton, and Mrs. Helen Williamson. I understand two of the ladies are here today, but Mrs. Williamson was not able to make it from Aurora, but she'll be down later this week. The next one is for Russell Warner, ancestor Joseph Morden. This is kind of a special one for me because Russell is my grandfather's first cousin. Now I have another grouping. They're the children of Mrs. Betty Evans. There's Jane Evans, Richard Evans, David Evans, Mrs. Patricia Miller, and Mrs. Elizabeth Jones. And they're all descended from Captain Isaac Giroux. There's Mrs. Evans here to accept. She's coming. Ah. If anyone would like to take pictures, please feel free to come forward. They'll be all lined up shortly. The next one is for Mr. Louis Rombo, ancestor William Rombo, and I believe his daughter Lily Jean, our soloist this morning, is going to accept it. I should mention that it's his 80th birthday today, and had he been here from New York, we would have sang happy birthday, but... Okay, the next grouping, Mr. Harold Stover, Mrs. Betty Kippen, and Miss Carrie Kippen. And Mrs. Kippen is going to accept for all three. This is 3 generations, by the way, father, daughter, and granddaughter. Oh, yes. Yes, and I'm sorry, I should also mention that Mr. Jack Kippen has just received his associate membership in our branch. Now, Mrs. Marion Taylor, ancestor William Reed. Now I have another grouping here, 3 ladies, Mrs. Lucy Craig, Mrs. Catherine Gibson, and Mrs. Georgina Martin. Their ancestor is Jephthah Hawley, and these ladies are from Brighton. Ah, I've got 2 of them here. Good. And I also have a certificate in for Mr. Wilbert Fox of Alberta, whose ancestor is Joel Prindle, but he's not here today to accept it, but we'll be mailing it to him right away. I'd like to take half a moment to say a very special thank you to my mother, who took an hour of her time yesterday to run down to headquarters to pick up 7 of the certificates that I've just presented so that we could have them here today. So Mother, wherever you are, thank you very much. The best courier pigeon we've ever had.
Anyone wishing to take pictures, just come forward, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bird. The Belleville Scottish Country Dancers are very pleased to be able to participate in this historic event. Everywhere that Scots went, they took their music and their dance with them. And when they arrived in Canada, the dances that you will see today are typical of the dances that they would have brought to this country and dances that are still being done all over the world. The first dance we would like to do is entitled The Gentle Shepherd. The second dance that we're going to do is a Strathspey Bay called Robertson Rant. Tame O' Mine. Our last dance is called the New Petronella. If you care to clap, you're most welcome. If you care to sing, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much to the Scottish dancers. They say that a true Scot is a person who always brags about coming from Scotland but never wants to go back there to live. And speaking of being Scot, if it wasn't for rental service, I wouldn't be wearing this outfit today. I'm sure the first loyalists that landed could afford their own clothes. They tell a story about a Scotsman walking down the street in the winter in Scotland, and he had a little flask in his hip pocket, and he slipped on some ice and fell. He reached around and he fell himself. He lifted up his old thing, got his blood. The next item we have in our program is a dramatic production by the Prince Edward Collegiate Picton, under the supervision of Ian Juby and Niger Sable. Neither of which are here.
Hi, our presentation is called The Cabin, starring Vicki Higgins, Rosa Riamaki, and myself, Andy Riamaki. Okay, let's go.
They'll never find me in this old cabin. I bet no one ever comes here anymore. Oh,
Rosa, start again, can't hear nothing.
okay now?
Sure. Start again.
Getting all this on tape?
Yeah. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Well, okay. You can watch it on TV.
Don't worry about it. She can stay in case
You'll never find me in this old place. Bet you nobody comes here anymore. Oh, look at the dirt. Ugh. Well, listening to the Beatles, we'll have to listen to Grandma. Oh, this is fun. Real fun. There's something to do. They wore these back then. I don't know how they would. But gosh. Write that letter. You in the funny clothes. Talking to you. In the year of our Lord, 1784. Hey, this is 1984. You're 200 years back, girl. 1930. Aren't you? Dear Aunt Amelia. Hey, I've never named anybody Amelia. No way. Newfoundland, I'm sure. You better learn your geography, girl. It's nowhere near Newfoundland. We've only been here since August. So, there's no time at all to clear the land. And don't plant it.
You don't get the people's tea.
We may not even get any seeds. We've been promised. But there have been so many shortages. Oh, it is all so very hard. There has not been a pioneer in our family over 3 generations. We've lost our beautiful home in New York. Now we live in this drafty old cabin with only a blanket for a door. And the food. Oh, horrible food. I mean, all we got was a bit of pork, and even less beef. No butter. No milk either, and not any livestock either. Oh, and squirrel stew. Oh, it's horrible for you to live on. I mean, squirrels used to be those cute furry things that ran across the parklands in New York, their beautiful home. And now there's no parklands here. And the squirrels are all in the pot. Poor. Venison isn't bad, but we haven't had any for such a long time.
Sarah! Sarah! I shot my first deer today. He was in the woods, surrounded by all these trees. I pulled up my musket, took aim, pulled the trigger. Bang! He fell down. I went over to investigate. He was dead, so I have dragged him home. Come help me cure it.
But we have no salt to cure it with.
Well, I'll build a smokehouse.
It's not that easy.
Well, there's plenty of trees.
There's too many trees, and the nearest sawmill's 30 miles away. How could you ever get it done in time? And those tools you have, the ones they gave us, they're falling apart. There's no one to fix it. Oh. Besides, I saw you try to chop down a tree. It took you 2 days to chop down one.
Pardon me, but it didn't. It took only a day and a half.
You're also very simple. But besides, you're always running around fishing, catching these little minnows.
Buffalo chips.
How can you use this language in this house?
I'm gonna go build that smokehouse anyway.
You should hear some 20th century language, girl. That's language. Must be the horrible circumstances we're living in to drive them to that. Oh, I don't like knitting very much. It wouldn't be quite so bad if we weren't so isolated. Then we'd have neighbors. I like that. Out here, it's all the hard work. Nobody around very close. Oh. Oh, there. There! I'm getting positively rustic. Oh. I miss all of our neighbors in New York.
Sarah! We have neighbors!
Neighbors?
And they have 2 small children.
Oh, it's good.
And Father has invited them over for dinner tonight.
Oh, dinner for real people. Dinner? Oh, my. Dinner.
Oh, the fireworks.
We don't have very much, but neighbors make all the difference. It's wonderful. And nowhere am either.
Sarah! Come help me get some
again. What's going on here? I gotta go talk to my grandma about this.
Well, thank you very much. Next item we have this afternoon. Stacey, suppose we get that cannon to fire another shot just to wake us all up? I think some of us are falling asleep.
Just to wait.
Fire up there.
I said, there's nothing to show. So what do you want us to do? Do any other road out of here? Watch him blow that lady's head off.
All right, well. The next item on our program, we're going to call on Mrs. Ethel Dempsey, or Dr. Ethel Dempsey, to introduce our guest speaker. After the speech, Dr. Walters has given his speech, we'll ask Mrs. Evelyn Drew Picton to thank him.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege this afternoon to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Adolphustown from Toronto. Dr. Walters is a medical doctor. In fact, he graduated with me in in '33 from the University of Toronto. He has devoted his professional life to the investigation and treatment of nervous and mental diseases. His life has been that of teacher, lecturer, researcher, along with private practice in his chosen field. Dr. Walters has experienced a distinguished career in neurology and psychology in England and Canada for more than 40 years. During World War II, he was stationed overseas at the Basingstoke Neurological Hospital. He made a dedicated contribution to a battle exhaustion unit behind the Canadian lines in Normandy, Belgium, and Holland. Earlier in the war, he had been slated to the British Navy to go as psychiatrist with the Mediterranean Fleet. However, he answered an urgent call to return to Toronto in order to teach, so that senior staff men at the Toronto General Hospital would be relieved for service. Returning to Canada after the war, he set up a consulting practice in Toronto, as well as providing neurological and psychiatric services to the Toronto General and the Wellesley Hospital. Dr. Walters is no stranger to this area of Ontario. He was born in Napanee of United Empire Loyalist stock. It is because of his deep interest in our founding fathers that he is here today. Let's welcome Dr. Walters.
Thank you very much, Ethel. Can you all hear me? Well, then I've got some medical advice to all of us, because we've got another half hour. Not that I'm going to take a whole half hour, but you're cramped. Now, it's not good for anybody to have a cramp. Everybody stand up. 30 seconds for stretch. Now, stretch. Hands above your head. Now keep them up there. And those who haven't got loyalist blood in them, put them down. The others all hold them up. Everybody with loyalist blood.
Look at that. 100 years later, 200 years later. All right, thank you. Sit down. Now we can go. Mr. Chairman, Lady President Mrs. Smith, past President Mrs. Drew, honored guests, distinguished VIPs, loyalists, and everybody.
Where'd the others go?
My title will be The Settlement of the United Empire Loyalists at the Bay of Quinte, 1784. And I just want to give the details of what happened. 200 years ago today, out there on the front bay, a long string of government bateaux, that's rowboats, big ones, carrying about 250 United Empire Loyalists, were coming up to Adolphus Reach to find their new lands for the Adolphustown Company in this township. The boats came around that point out there and into this inlet here and landed up this shallow, sheltered water. Now you picture them, they didn't have Pilgrim Fathers and they weren't in ordinary rowboats as the 1884 people pictured them. They were in the same costumes you'll see in Napanee Museum, and the same costumes you see today. Georgian clothes, some of the soldiers, that's all they had left from the war. Some of the New Yorkers with all they had left, and they just came in their clothes, and that's about all. The bateaux were big transport boats. You see them at Upper Canada Village, and they had 4 oarsmen. These were government bateaux. The Loyalists were transported by government transport, and the oarsmen weren't ourselves. We didn't row ourselves up here. They were rowed up by 4 French Canadians. French-Canadian paid, government-paid French-Canadian voyageurs. They brought us up and they took the bateaux back to bring a load up. And the Loyalists from Sorel and Lachine had been dropped off at different landing points at Cornwall, at Prescott, at Cataraqui, at Ernesttown, at Fredericksburg, and this is our landing here on the 16th of January for the Adolphustown Company. Get those facts, because it wasn't true that this is the first landing. They landed all the way up, and we were at the end, except for the British regular soldiers, which Archie McDonnell took across the bay and settled the British soldiers across the bay with some Germans. That's what happened in June the 16th, 1784. There were about 1,500 were settled from Kingston to Picton, and about 1,800 were settled from Brockville and Glengarry on the St. Lawrence River in the same month. The loyal Mohawk nations in early May had gone to their new lands from Belleville to Deseronto, and Joseph Brant, Captain Deseronto, and the Hills took them in, and Joseph Brant took his men on up and over from Niagara to the Grand River. The Loyalists in 1784 at Niagara and Detroit had crossed the river. You must get these facts right. And they took up land as surveys were completed, more gradually. Now, 1784 is the birth year of civilian Ontario. The cradle lands of Ontario are the St. Lawrence River, the Bay of Quinte, Niagara, and Detroit, 1784, and that's why we're celebrating. And June the 16th is the birthday of Bay of Quinte Loyalists. The greatest importance of the Loyalists for Canada, as well as for Ontario, is that they were not settled, as many wished, in the Ottawa Valley, or on the Bay of Chaleur, or in the eastern townships of Quebec. That's what lots of them wanted. But they brought them up here to settle them west of Montreal in forested wilderness that became Ontario. These Loyalist settlements brought into being in 1791 a new province of Upper Canada and Forks. With that growth west of Montreal, the Canadian border in 1812 to 14 was successfully defended. If the Loyalists had been settled elsewhere, Ottawa, Chaleur, Eastern Townships, and the Ontario land remained an empty tract with only fortified posts. The western flank of the Canadian border would have been indefensible in the War of 1812, and it would have fallen to the United States. There's no question about that. Such a disaster would have cut off the prairies forever from Quebec, and the Dominion of Canada would never have come into existence, and we certainly would not be here today. This is the key point about the intrusion of Loyalists west of Montreal. Not that we saved it, but that we were brought here and stayed here, and that the British government brought us here. It was Lieutenant General Frederick Haldeman, Governor of Quebec, who made that crucial decision, and he is the founder of Ontario, no doubt about it. He decided to settle the Loyalists west of Montreal when his staff, that's Howland and Collins and Sherwood, reported 1 million acres of fine land from the Quebec border to Trenton. And once he knew that, he prepared for western settlement with adequate fortifications at Kingston and Niagara. He said, we can hold that country. 1783 was the year of the preparation. It took a whole year to get us up here in preparation. Some of the Loyalists came up to help. Surveys were made for townships and towns. Mills and bateaux were built. Supplies of tools, blankets, tents, clothing, and rations, seeds, and some cattle were assembled. Army rations were issued and planned on, and were issued until the settlements were self-supporting, and that was for 3 to 4 years. On this point, there was a commissary for 3 to 4 years sending pork and beans around the bay to keep us going. Get these facts right. The 1884 celebration and the last 100 years has been full of myths, full of legend, because it was anecdotal. And what we've got now is Canadian history with archival material which you can get the facts, and most of them come out of Haldeman's papers. If you haven't read them, read them. That'll tell you where it is. Now, 1784 was the year of the landings. In May and June, the Loyalists were brought up from Lachine by battle in a quasi-military expedition under government discipline, regulation, and provisions. This 1784 settlement ceded the virgin Ontario wilderness with a civilian population which brought in its train more Loyalists and more American migrants, and it brought representative government in the province of Upper Canada and our survival in the War of 1812 to 14. For this birthday party, you will need introductions to these 1784 Loyalists, and I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to introduce the Loyalists, who exactly they were. They are the guests we are honoring today, our ancestors who brought us to Canada. They were colonial Americans who had resisted the American Revolutionary War, and at the end of the war they were stranded in Canada homeless. They were an ethnic mixture. They weren't all British. They were German, Dutch, British, French, Huguenot, and Swedish. The settlement consisted of 5 units of disbanded soldiers, 2 companies of associated Loyalists, some unincorporated Loyalists who had reached Canada independently, and the Mohawk Indians, and some discharged British and German soldiers. That was the group, 1784 group. Now here's where they came. Get this. The veterans of the 1st, the soldiers, the veterans of the 1st Battalion of the King's Royal Regiment of New York, who was under Sir John Johnson, were settled on the St. Lawrence River from below Cornwall to near Prescott. They took 5 townships of Charlottenburg, Cornwall, Osnabrook, Williamsburg, and Matilda. There were 578 men with families of 849 women went in there, women, children, and servants. The Loyal Rangers, under Major Edward Jessup, settled from Prescott to above Brockville in the townships of Edwardsburg, Augusta, and Elizabethtown. On the Bay of Quinte, here, in the township of Ernestown, that was taken by the remainder of Jessup's corps. They couldn't squeeze them in down the river, and they simply overflowed up here. But Ernestown was with Charlie Jessup in their first lots. On the river of Jessup, 201 men with families of 275 were settled. And in Ernestown, there was 147 men with families of 269. They had a little more women in Jessup. You will all recognize Ernestown names. Now, these are the old names in Ernestown. There may be somebody who isn't a loyalist, but if not, they were there a long while. But here are the names, just a few. There are many more, but I just toss out, just so you remember Ernestown. Fairfield, Booth, Briscoe, Miller, Davies, Hawley, Asselstein, Clark, Simmons, Hoke, or Huff, H-O-U-G-H, Amy, Huffman, Snyder, Pringle, Burley, French, Sherwood, Finkel, Catchison, Switzer, where? 296 men and families of 284. You will recognize Fredericksburg names: Rogers, Bell, Empey, Parks, Lokes, Bowen, Ham, Embry, Sills, Wager, Bauer, Detler, Carscallon, Defoe, Diamond, Loist, Spencer, Church, Pringle, Warner, Keller, and Rightly. The Royal Highland Emigrants, the 84th Foot, were a loyalist regiment under Brigadier Alan McLean, and they kept them on duty till the end of June '84. They didn't go to these special areas. They separated and went their way where they found their own friends and their own lots in both the Ontario and the Nova Scotia and the Quebec settlements. Now we come so much for the soldiers. Now the two companies of associated loyalists were the Grass Company and the Van Alstyne Company. The Grass Company for Kingston and the Van Alstyne Company for Adolphustown. And they were mostly civilian American Tories, but they had a number of loyalists of men who had fought in the armies. And they'd been in the British stronghold of New York and under military command had been shipped out to Quebec, wintered at Sorel, and came up here from Lachine in battle. Captain Michael Grass's company settled in Kingston Township between the town of Kingston and Collins Bay. They brought 93 men and families of 149. Kingston names included Grass, Workman, Day, Cartwright, Crawford, Stewart, Knight, Everett, Warner, and Purdy, and many more. It's just that I can't get everybody in. The company under Major Peter Van Alstyne, which is the Adolphustown Company, came here and landed here 200 years ago on this very point, right over there. There were 91 men, 44 women, 97 children, and 8 slaves, probably all servants, probably all slaves. Somebody said they were all Peter Van Alstyne slaves. I don't know. They had arrived just in time here to make a small clearing in the woods, get a log hut up, and a few seeds in before winter. Adolphustown names include Van Dusen, Van Alstyne, Bogert, German, Cole, Carnahan, Dorland, Thompson, Hike, Vanderwater, Rattan, Allison, Roblin, Hagerman, Young, Huff, Benson, Fisher, Allen, and Dyer. Some of these people went over to Prince Edward after. Now the 5th Township surveyed the Bay of Quinte. Surveyed on the Bay of Quinte was Marysburg in Prince Edward County, across from Adolphustown, right over there, and they settled from Picton to Wapoos and out the South Bay. And the first lots were not allocated to the American loyalists. The first lots went to the regular British and German soldiers who had chosen to stay in Canada, and Haldeman didn't know where else to put them. They were very lucky to get into Prince Edward, as you people will all agree. In there went 153 British veterans, and they had families of 94, and they were taken over by Lieutenant Archie MacDonnell of the Royal Highland Emigrants, and they took in 29 Brunswickers. Now they were often called Hessians, but they were Brunswick Germans under the command of Baron de Reitzenstein, and he had 22 women and children with them, and that was the first Marysburg 1784 allotment. Now, the townships of Sophiasburg and Ameliusburg are different because they were not open in 1784, but they opened in 1785 to 87, and they were settled by the Loyalists who had arrived independently and took up land. And a number of old Prince Edward families first landed from Kingston to Adolphustown, and then went over and took up more land for the land grants in Prince Edward. Early, some of these people from this side went over, and they include names such as Morton, Roblin, Cole. These are all old Prince Edward names now. Van Dusen, Young, Rogers, Bungard, Allen, and Peterson. And old, purely Prince Edward names, I think, as far as I can find out, were Young, Conger, Johnson, DeMille, Cromp, Shorts, Lazier, Hicks, Mowers, Weiss, Dempsey, Sager, Bleecker, Covert, Zufeld, and many more. Now, by 1790, 4 more Bay of Quinte townships were opened, and Tyne-Tenega went to the Mohawks, Sydney in the Trenton area, Thurlow in the Belleville area, and Richmond on the Napanee River. And now, Richmond on the Napanee River was, they were all settled by late arrivals. Early names in Sydney, from 1787 to about 1790, were Ferguson, Bale, Marsh, Farley, Crysdale, Ostrom, and Gilbert. In Thurlow, an early settler was Captain Singleman, who'd come from Adolphustown, and there were, into the Belleville area came 50 refugees in 1789, and Captain Myers came to Belleville in 1790, but you see it was a little later in the settlement. Richmond was across the Napanee River and was surveyed in 1785 because it was just across from Fredericksburg, and Fredericksburg people sort of infiltrated. The Woodcocks, Petersons, Campbells, Richardsons, and Dettlers all got in there. Now, the lots at the Kingston town at Kingston were settled by a variety, right in Kingston town, were settled by a variety of loyalists, discharged soldiers, and government officials, and they all located there because that was the center of the Cattarauqua settlement. Now, the 17 townships from Charlottenburg on the river to Sophiasburg and Ameliusburg up here are the Royal Townships of Ontario. See, they're all named for the royal family. In 1788, as a mark of honor to the Loyalists, they were named by King George III for the royal family. The King and Queen, Lancaster and Charlottenburg, and Kingston, and the 13 royal princes right up to Amelia. The townships of Tyne-Tenega, Sydney, Thurlow, and Richmond, they are the noble townships of the Bay of Quinte. They're named for nobles. The Mohawk chief, Joseph Brant, was a noble, and the 3 British noblemen, Lord Sydney and Lord Thurlow and the Duke of Richmond, were in the British government. Now you begin to see who we are. We've got to celebrate it. I won't be long, but I want you to realize that 100 years ago, our ancestors, grandfathers, and their grandfathers came here too. And they celebrated the first 100 years of Centennial with a birthday party right here in Adolphustown, and they gave thanks for their survival, as they well should. Father, son, and grandson, 3 generations, occasionally a 4th by 84. They also celebrated their growth because they and their generations had grown into a Dominion of Canada, a confederation. And they also remembered the part Loyalists, they remembered this part, and they remembered the part Loyalists had played, and they left the memorials of the United Empire Loyalist Memorial Church Methodist, the United Empire Loyalist Church Anglican St. Albans, and the United Empire Loyalist Monument here today, which we saw and commented on. Tomorrow we'll go to the Loyalist churches. Now we, in 1984, are their grandsons, great-grandsons of the 1884 Loyalists. We are here today in another century of survival and another century of growth because we came to Canada. Our ancestors brought us here to Canada. We've had that privilege, and this is the cause for our celebration. We have great cause to be grateful for having survived 2 terrible wars and a paralyzing depression. But we also have great cause to celebrate our sharing in the growth of Canada, from a Canada of 1804 to a Canada of 1984 with Newfoundland in the game and stretching from the 49th parallel to the high Arctic. We've grown, and we've grown with it. And we've enjoyed a second century of political stability, and we've enjoyed it by the use of representative government by Parliament in a constitutional monarchy, and it's because of that that we've become the Canada of today as a family of many ethnic roots. That's what we are today, many ethnic roots, and we're united, loyalists and all, in a single nationhood within the British Commonwealth. This political strength and flexibility of a constitutional monarchy and a representative parliamentary government without dismemberment by violence, because that's what we announced, has been the principle of unity which the United Empire Loyalist forefathers chose 2 centuries ago in 1776 to 1783. Granted, it was a loyalty to the crown. Granted, it was a preference for the British, but it was basically a preference for the political stability that ensues when you gradually solve your problems without violence, and gradually solve your problems with law and order under a symbol of the crown or a symbol of some kind of sovereignty that's respected. Now let's look ahead. We've got another 100 years ahead. 2084 is just on the horizon. Our grandchildren and their grandchildren and their children will have the rewards of great scientific and technological advance, far more than we can ever see. You've got the problem of outer space, the problem of the nucleus, and you've got to compete with computers, if that isn't a job for them. But that is no more daunting than the job that the Loyalists had when they came into these empty forests. They will need to face challenges and to solve their difficulties without violence. They will need to be true to the loyalist principles of law and order, of reform and adaptation without violence, and to solve their problems by the same loyalist strengths that our forefathers did we have, by love, courage, and the will to survive. For this celebration, I'm about through, for this celebration I give you a final verse. And I'll remind you of Rudyard Kipling's paraphrase of Ecclesiasticus. And it goes, "Let us now praise famous men, men of little showing, for their work continueth, broad and deep continueth, greater than their knowing." Thank you.
Dr. Walters, on behalf of the grandchildren of the UELs to come, will you accept one of their balloons?
I feel very honored today to have been asked to thank Dr. Walters. I've known Dr. Walters for many years, and I've been very privileged in hearing him speak many times, and each time I feel that he's inspired me, and I hope that I've been able to inspire someone else from his words. And I hope we'll all take to heart what he said today, that it is our heritage, and it's our future, and our children, and this is a wonderful celebration, a wonderful day for 200 years, and I hope every 100 years, I hope there's just as nice a celebration. Thank you again, Dr. Walters, from all of us.
Evelyn, would you be able to thank our speaker 100 years from now if I ask you?
I'll be like the play. I'll come back and haunt you all.
Thank you. The next item we have on our program, we're very privileged to have the Mohawk Children's Dance Group led by Mrs. Lorraine Hill from the Tyneside Mohawk Reserve. Let's give them a good hand.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the children and I are very happy to be here with you in celebrating your 200th anniversary today. We'd like to start off our program with a dance called the Raccoon Dance. Dances our ancestors brought with them when they came from New York Valley, or the Mohawk Valley, I should say, in New York State. Many of the dances that the children are doing, and this is only a portion of the program that they're going to be doing, are very, very old, hundreds of years old. The next dance that they're doing is the Robin Dance, and it's one of the oldest of the dances that we do.
Yo,
You might wish to know something about these children. They were all members of the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. Their ancestors were all United Empire Loyalists. They come from Quinte Mohawk School on the reserve. They're in grades from 4 to 7. Most of them are grade 4 because that's where we begin the teaching program. The next dance the children are going to do is called the Sioux dance. Much of its culture until 1970 when my husband and I made an attempt to bring some of it back to the reserve. At that time we started the Quinte Mohawk dancers and they have continued for the past 14 years. They have danced in 1973 for the Queen when she was in Kingston. and they will be dancing again for the Queen when she is here in Amherst this July. That is, if that visit does take place with an upcoming election and so on. The last dance the children are going to do for you is called the fish dance.
Dad, I want to go to the left. I'll go to the fish.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, and your dancers. Anyone who has not driven through the Mohawk Reserve, I would suggest if you're heading west after this is over, instead of going up to 401 and bailing up through, take number 2 highway, drive through the reserve, and see what they have. And it will just make you feel good. They have one of the best schools that I have ever seen. And I think some of the best pupils, too. And I'll say more about the Indians later. Now, we have tried in making up our program not to have a long program of speeches. But we do feel that we owe it to some people to have a chance to say a word or two. I must remind you now that we'll be drawing the quilt before long. And if you don't have a ticket, if you want to take a nice quilt home, you should go and purchase a ticket. The next person we're to call on is Mrs. Windswept, who is president of the Empire Loyalist Association, Dominion Council. Gwen.
Mr. Chairman, platform guests, and friends. It is with pleasure that I bring greetings from the United Empire Loyalists Association of Canada and offer congratulations to Mr. Wendell Cam and the members of the Bicentennial Committee for the well-planned festivities we are enjoying today. History is being written here today. We have reached the final pages of Chapter 2 of Ontario's history and are opening the unwritten chapter of number 3. Each of us has the opportunity to contribute to the writing of that chapter. Will you join with the members of the United Empire Loyalist Association as we endeavor to promote the aims which we believe in? We believe in uniting together the descendants of Loyalists to preserve the history and traditions of the Loyalists, collect together all memorabilia related to the Loyalists, publish historic data related to the Loyalists, and to erect and construct monuments and memorials in memory of them. John Ruskin's words of days gone by could well be ours today. When we build, let us think that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present use alone. Let it be such work as our descendants will thank us for. And let us think, as we lay stone on stone, that a time was come when those stones will be held sacred, sacred because our hands have touched them, and that men will say, as they look upon the labor and wrought substance of them, see, this our fathers did for us. Thank you.
The members of the Bay of Quinte branch and all of you will want to congratulate Gwen on becoming our national president in this bicentennial year of 1978. I'd like to call upon Annabelle Galt, the 7-year-old daughter of Pat and Elizabeth Galt, who live on the Loyalist Parkway and are neighbors of Gwen and Crawford Smith. She's going to make a small presentation to Mrs. Smith on behalf of all of us.
Thank you very much. Now, the next person I'm going to introduce to you is Chief Earl Hill, but before I call on him, I just want to mention something. Anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to taste the Mohawk corn soup just hasn't tasted good soup. And legend has it that the Great Spirit above sent this recipe down to the Indian ladies so that they will know what things are going to be like in the hereafter, because that soup is just out of this world. Chief Hill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bird. Our guests, ladies and gentlemen, descendants of the United Empire Loyalists, I am pleased to bring greetings and best wishes to you from the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. We are also a group of United Loyalists. Our forefathers fought side by side with your forefathers in loyalty to the British Crown. Together they kept Canada from becoming the 14th state of the United States. Their efforts laid the foundation for this great country of Canada. This year we are again side by side celebrating the 200th anniversary of our arrival in our new homes. Although we differ in the fact that this territory was already Iroquois hunting and fishing territory, and to you it was a new land, still we were also making a new settlement. Leaving our old homes in the Mohawk Valley, we still have dual citizenship, but the bonds between our people and the British Crown remain strong. They were the people with whom all our treaties were made. We look to them and you for the support we need to retain the special rights and privileges we have as Native people. We have worked together for 200 years and have advanced to one of the finest areas in Canada. Let us continue to work together for the prosperity and advancement of our peoples. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chief. Now, the next person that I'm going to introduce to you is Mr. William Van Conant, MP, Hastings, Frontenac, Lennox. And before I call on William, I should say, Bill and I worked together. And I thought, and as I got to know Bill, and I found him to be a very upright and honest young fellow, but it seemed that we both passed on to a better life. I had a rich aunt die and left me her estate, and Bill went into politics. Now, if he had as much fun in politics as I've had in retirement, he's having a great time. Bill.
Thank you very much, Clarence, platform guests, Loyalists, boys and girls, and certainly friends of the Loyalists. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here on this very historic occasion, the bicentennial of the landing of the Loyalists. I think it's very important that we stress that it is 1984 and the bicentennial of the landing of the Loyalists. I think many of you here will realize that I'm not going to preach to the converted, because you know that our history and our heritage is very prominent today in what we do in Parliament, in our forms of government, and our institutions that we have. So I think it's very important that we remember and pay tribute to the people who have made this land what it is today. We hold in trust a great future for our younger people to follow, and I think it's very important that we see the young people that we do here today. I want to congratulate the Bay of Quinte branch, the Dominion United Empire Loyalist Association, for continuing this heritage that we have, and certainly having the Mohawk Indians here to take part in this very important ceremony today is true and very indicative of our heritage that we have. I'm very proud to represent this part of Canada, this part of Ontario, and I can say to each and every one of you, Hastings, Frontenac, Lennox, and Anagan is but a small part of Eastern Ontario that has this great heritage. And I want to bring greetings to you from my colleagues in the House of Commons, from all political parties, people particularly who represent Eastern Ontario who could not be here today because of celebrations within their constituency. And I want to also bring greetings to you from Canada's Parliament, what this celebration is all about, freedom and democracy and the secret ballot that we hold today. As you know, many of us are watching with great interest events that are going on in Ottawa this very weekend. This is very important in our political process, the democracy that we hold. But I also want to say that I bring greetings to you from the House of Commons and not the Civic Centre. So I hope that this afternoon will be an enjoyable afternoon, and that you will come back on July the 3rd, and that you will be with us on the 17th when Her Majesty, the head of state, will visit this particular area. And I also want to say to each and every one of you today that although I am an opposition member of Parliament, and from time to time it's my duty as that representative of people to criticize government, I want to today pay tribute to the Postmaster, the Minister responsible for the Canada Post, and certainly Mr. Warren and Mr. Moran, and certainly the official who is here today, who have issued a Loyalist stamp in commemoration of the Loyalists who settled this country in 1783 and 1784. I hope that many of you will be able to be here on the 3rd of July when this stamp is unveiled, and certainly take part in that very historic event. I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon and listen to Dr. Walters, another Napanee boy. I think we Napanee boys are very fortunate to come from an area such as this and know so many people. When I walk around this grounds today, I know why I'm a politician, because I'm related to almost everyone, and it certainly helps. I want to say thank you for your very kind invitation and your hospitality here this afternoon. Thank you.
If Bill Van Conant had ran for the Liberal leadership, he'd have beat them all hands down. I heard the speeches last night, and they can't hold a candle, Bill, to what you said today. Thank you. You probably spoke more truth in 5 minutes than they did in a half an hour. Excuse me. The next person we're going to call on is Mr. Jim Pollock, MPP for Hastings, Peterborough. Now, Jim Pollock represents my territory. And I must say that everything I've heard about Jim has been good. Jim Pollock.
Well, thank you, Clarence, platform guests, descendants of the United Empire Loyalists, and ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. I'm certainly pleased to be here and bring you greetings from the Ontario government, and I'm sure the Honourable William Davis and all the members of the Ontario legislature would want me to thank you for the contribution the Empire Loyalists have made to Ontario. When the Loyalists came to Ontario, they didn't come across the bridge at Ivy Lee or at Cornwall or jot across Lake Ontario at 25 knots an hour. The trek was long and hard, and they eventually made it with a lot of human sacrifices. And this year, the Ontario government is making available a bicentennial medal for people who made a contribution in their community. And you know, if we could turn back the pages of time to 200 years ago, I'm sure that every member of the United Empire Loyalists that made that journey then should have a medal. I would like to also mention that the United Empire Loyalists had a really strong belief in God and were loyal to the Crown. And also the fact that on our coat of arms in Ontario, there's an inscription It's in Latin, but when translated, it says, "Loyal she begins and loyal she remains." On the 27th of May, I attended the 200th anniversary of the landing of the Mohawks when they journeyed from the Mohawk Valley in the United States and landed on the north shores of the Bay of Quinte. And you know that the Mohawks come from New York State, and also you Loyalists come from New York State and Pennsylvania and Virginia. I got to admit that my forefathers didn't come from that area. They came from County Antrim and County Cork. But there's one thing I'm sure that we all agree on. We're glad that our forefathers did come to this great province of Ontario. I would like to just congratulate Wendell Cam. Wendell lives in that great village of Sterling. We share something in common. I got a constituency office that's only a stone's throw from Highway 33, and Wendell lives only about a stone's throw from Highway 33, and of course you know that highway has now been named the Loyalist Parkway. I know Jim Taylor and wanted me to express his regrets that he couldn't be here today because he had to attend a wedding, but I know Jim and Hugh O'Neill, Earl McEwen, and Keith Norton would want me to congratulate you and wish you all all the best on this very special day. So with that, thanks once again, and may God bless.
Thank you very much, Jim. The next person we'll call on is Mr. Harold Allison from Bath. He's the Warden of Lennox and Addington counties.
Mr. Chairman, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Walters mentioned that they had a gathering here 100 years ago, and I understand my grandfather spoke to the group at that time, so I feel very honored today to have been asked to bring you greetings from our county and the wardens of the surrounding counties. Warden John Smale from Frontenac County. He was here earlier. Are you still here, John? Warden Don Ketchapaw from Prince Edward County, and Warden Frank Rabel from Hastings County. Now, I don't confine my greetings to just the people from those four counties, because as we have heard, there are people here from British Columbia. I know them, the Haight family. I met Dr. Walters' family from California. My own daughter is here from Halifax. So if you take from Halifax to BC and go down to California, you've covered most of North America. So I'm glad you're all here. I hope you've all met an old friend, and take the time to meet a new one. And thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks.
Time is running out on the tickets on the quilt. Don't go home without one. The next gentleman we're to call on is Mr. Tom Tomko, Reeve of South Fredericksburg.
Honored guests, loyalists and friends, today you are gathered on the shores of the Bay of Quinte where your forefathers landed, to honor your ancestors and to commemorate the landing 200 years ago. The trim lawns of this park do not exemplify the virgin wilderness that greeted them on this shore, the tenacity and idealism that caused them to leave their homes for a new land, enabled them to survive and prosper in spite of the severe hardships of pioneer life. They prospered and they multiplied. The Rogers, the Sills, Hams, Van de Bogarts, Van Conants, Allisons, Hikes, Loysts, Rattans, Carskellans, Detlers, Hollies, Hopes, Parks, Young, Spencers, to name only a few that settled in the historic 5 townships. Some still remain, but for the most they have spread throughout Canada and left their stamp of their heritage in all facets of Canadian life. To all those that have been, to all those that are now, and to all those that will follow, I bring greetings as Reeve of Township 3 on behalf of all of the Reeves in the 4 counties that are covered by the Bay of Quinte branch. I bring greetings and best wishes on this your bicentennial.
Thank you very much. We will be releasing the balloons before very long. So I guess anyone that wants one should go down. Where are they? I believe they're over around that side. The next item we have, the Pioneer Square Dancers from Napanee, led by Doug Thomason.
Well, folks, this is the Pioneer Square Dance Club. Some of the representation. If there are any others in the group, in the gathering here, that can dance this dance, please come out and join us. You don't have to be a member, because once you learn to square dance, you can square dance anywhere in Canada or in Ontario, in the States or anywhere. So if we're any more in the group that could dance with us here? If so, come on out. What do we need? All filled up that are out there? One more couple? Three more couples? Need three more.
Robert.
Can we get any more? Okay, can we? Is that everyone? I might say before we start, I've heard some remarking on these very colorful skirts that some of the ladies are wearing. These skirts were made 3 years ago for the convention that was held in Ottawa, and this is the Ontario skirt. Now we have one couple way over there looking for three couples to go dance with them. Can we find three more? Yeah, what's better here? 1, 2. Oh yeah, sure. We'll keep it to where everybody can dance. Come on, let's get another square up there. Still need one. Okay, now we go. Now we go. Side space, grand square, this land is your land. This land is my land. From Bonavista to Vancouver Island, from the Arctic Circle to the Great Lake water, this land was made for you and me. Element, you're going to girl, and you don't see no your own. Left the element that corner and give Dominator home. This land is your land. This land is my land. This land was made for you and me. For ladies' chain, go across the ring you go. You know something? We're going to have to do it again, and I'm going to have to stay off that platform. Because every time I move, the needle jumps. So get your girl back home, we'll try it all again. Side space, grand square. From Bonavista to Vancouver Island, from the Arctic Circle to the Great Lake waters, this land was made for you and me. Element, corner girl, no see to your own. Left the element that corner and you promenade home. This land is your land. This land is my land. This land was made for you and me. for ladies' chain. Go across the ring you go. Now the heads pass through in clover leaf, and the sides pass through and you curlicue, and then scoot back. Boys run to the right. Square through 3 hands and the corner, lady, swing. You swing this girl around, promenade, go around that ring. This land is your land, land is my land. This land was made for you and me, for ladies' chain. Go across the ring you go. Now the heads pass through in clover leaf, and the sides pass through and you curlicue, and then you scoot back. Boys run to the right. Square through 3 hands and the corner, lady, swing. You swing this girl around, promenade, go around that ring. This land is your land. Side space, grand square. Allemande corner two, do your own. Left the Allemande corner and you promenade her home. This land is your land, this land is my land. This land was made for you and me, for ladies' chain. Go across the ring you go. Now the sides pass through and clover leaf, and the heads pass through and you curlicue, and then you scoot back. And boys run to the right. Square through 3 hands and the corner, lady, swing. You swing this girl around, promenade, go around that ring. This land is your land, this land is my land. This land was made for you and me, for ladies' chain. Go across the ring you go. Now the sides pass through in clover leaf, hey, the heads pass through and you curlicue, and then you scoot back. Boys run to the right. Square through 3 hands and the corner, lady, swing. You swing this girl around, promenade, go around that ring. This land is your land, this land is my land. This land was made for side space, grand square. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Allemande corner girl and you don't see no your own. Left Allemande corner and you promenade her home. This land is your land, this land is my land. This land was made for you and me. Swinger boys, hey, this land was made for you and me. I might say that anyone interested in square dancing, there's a group starting in Napanee in the fall, and there'll be a group starting pretty well every town in the fall of the year. There's always a group starting somewhere.
Okay, we try this one. All right. See how it sounds. Circle of the left. Beautiful lady, you're standing so coldly. What are you thinking about? Allemande your corner and you do your own. Left Allemande and weave around that ring. Beautiful lady, oh beautiful lady, do-si-do this girl in your promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. Head to couples promenade, halfway round the ring, down the middle and do the right and left three. A flutter wheel and then you sweep a quarter more, pass through and do the right and left three. They dive through and square through, three hands go round. Swing the corner, girl, and promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be will be. Head to couple promenade, go halfway round the ring, and down the middle and to the right and left three. Now square through and go, it's four hands go round, around the corner, girl, you don't see do. Swing through, now swing through again. Boys run to the right, promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. Circle that. Beautiful lady, oh beautiful lady, what are you thinking about? Element left your corner, raggy do do your own. Left element and weave around that ring. Beautiful lady, oh beautiful lady, do this girl in your promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. Side to couple promenade, go halfway round the ring, down the middle and to the right and left three. They flutter, wheel and then you sweep a quarter more, you pass through and do the right and left three. They pass to the center and square through, with three hands go round, swing the corner, girl, in your promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. Side to couple promenade, go halfway round the ring, down the middle and do the right and left three. They square through and go, four hands around you go, round the corner, girl, you don't see toe. Swing through and then, boys run to the right, wheel and deal, swing that corner there, promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. Circle to the left. The element left your corner and you do your own. Left the element and weave around the three. Beautiful lady, oh beautiful lady, do your girl in your promenade. Just let me hold you as I have told you, and let what will be. The element left your corner in a bout of the heart. Have one more little one here.
Sure. The bathroom. I suppose that's
Circle it, won't you come with me, Lizzie, in my merry old mobile? Now element left your corner, and do your own. Four men, star left, inside, turn your partner right, and you go left element, come back and swing your own and promenade. You can go as far as you like with me in my merry old mobile. 1 and 3, promenade, halfway around the ring, down the middle and do the right and left three. They flutter, wheel and then, sweep a quarter more, pass through and do the right and left three. He dives through, square through, three hands go round, you swing the corner, lady, and promenade this way round. Well, I don't know why I like to dance with you, I don't know why I just do. 1 and 3, a promenade, halfway around the ring, down the middle and do the right and left three. You flutter, wheel and then you sweep a quarter more, you pass through and do the right and left three. You dive 3, square 3, three hands go round, swing the corner, lady, and promenade on down. And when you're smiling, you keep on smiling,
'cause the whole world smiles with you. Circle that. Every street's a boulevard in old New York. Every street's a highway to my dream. That element left your corner, and don't you see those wrong? 4 men star left inside. Turn your partner by the right, then you go left element. Come back and swing your own and promenade. 'Cause it's east side and west side, it's uptown and down. Oh, how I long to be in New York town. 2 and 4 you promenade, halfway go round. Come down the middle and do the right and left through. A flutter wheel and then you sweep a quarter more. Pass through and a right and left through. When you turn this girl once more, you pass to the center and square through. 3 hands go round. Swing the corner, lady, and promenade on down. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. 2 and 4 you promenade, halfway go round. Come down the middle and do the right and left through. A flutter wheel and then you sweep a quarter more. You pass through and a right and left through. And you turn this girl once more. A pass to the center and square through. 3 hands go round. Swing the corner, girl, and your promenade. And I'll be your tootsie-wootsie in that good old summertime. Circle there. I'm sitting on top of the world, just singing a song and rolling along. A element left your corner. Hey, don't you know you're on? 4 men, star left, inside. Turn your partner by the right, then you go left element. Come back and swing your honey there and promenade that land. I'm sitting on top of the world, just singing a song and rolling along. Swinger, just singing a song and rolling along. Okay, let's just thank your partner and thank your corner there. That's it.
Thank you very much. There's no arthritis there or any rheumatism, you notice, see? Now, I'd like our cannon man to get ready to fire another volley here. Gotta wake people up. We're getting near the end of the program. I think I know, as a matter of fact, we're going to call on the band of Pinecrest Memorial School, Bloomfield. But just before we do, I would like to ask our cannon man to fire the cannon, and when he does, would you release your balloons? Now, anyone or any child who wants, some little kid come along about that high, stole my balloons too. Big bully. Anyway, if any children want to keep their balloons and take them home, they're welcome to it. But when the cannon is fired, would you release your balloons, please? Fire. Let them go. Now, there they go. What about Bill Van Conant? He hasn't released his yet. Bill. You're not running for it. Let your balloon go. There it goes. Maybe Pierre Elliott Trudeau will find it. Now, what we're going to do is, we're going to change a little bit here. We're going to have a costume parade. And we would ask you, you can come by family, you can come individually, you can even come with your mother-in-law. And if you just parade, just walk around, up around here, and I have asked Wendell Cam, Glenn Smith, and Evelyn Drew to be the judges. And so if you'll do that while the band is playing, and as soon as the band is through, we will award you with your prizes. So you're anyone, you don't have to be a loyalist, anyone. I can win and everybody can add. No, get in there. Now, where can you sit? Be here. You'll present these with him. Come on now, just march around in front of here. Come on. Don't be bashful. Come on, Elner.
Come on, get a hold of Merritt there. March around here. Come on. Come on, just walk around here. Just walk around here. We don't need one. Come on, march around here, everybody. Look at this. Where's Evelyn Drew? Well, anyway, you keep it, Jimmy. John A. McDonald coming here.
Barry.
There down there, Dan. Okay. No, you don't. Not really. That's all right. I'll hold it for you. Well, how are we there? I think.
Sit down.
That's all you need.
Now we can get
Sorry about that.
There's a young. There's Danny Green over there. Right here. I'd like to picture him. We'll keep walking and maybe we'll get to him. Where am I here? There's so much noise I couldn't hear the name. There you go.
Jim Valley.
Yeah, we're going to move again. Poor guy.
Hello. It's okay now. Have the judges picked the winning people yet? We can't have them walking around all afternoon. And would Ivy Smith and Blanche and Clifford Reed and Mrs. Lucy Smith come up, please? Immediately.
Yeah, I should have done. Hey, where are you going?
Silly. Yeah, all that verbiage. Damn if I was going to shave it. I thought of powdering it. Oh, yeah.
Jack.
The costume parade for Sarah Miracle. Where's Sarah? Are you still right here? Sarah Miracle from Toronto. She has her prize. The second prize is Les Brownlee. Where's Les? Les, where'd you go? There he is with the shotgun. Okay. Next. Third prize out of Wagner. Yeah, no, I haven't. Okay. Thank you, Anna. There, you can get the prize up for the next pizza. Oh, here she is. Here's Sarah Miracle. Say hi. How are you? I know Wes. Your wife was talking to